Here we go again, y'all. Another twist in the ongoing effort to hold former President Donald Trump accountable for unlawful and egregious actions. It's exhausting, is it not? Let me get you caught up. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced yesterday that he's appointed a special counsel to oversee two of the investigations involving Donald Trump, his role in January 6th and his handling of classified documents. But the move is leading a lot of people to ask, why? The January 6th attack was 682 days ago. And in all that time, the man who encouraged his followers to storm the Capitol has not yet been held accountable. We know government documents were found in his Mar-a-Lago resort home that did not belong to him. The documents belong to the federal government. And then this week, Donald Trump announced that he's running for president in 2024, his third presidential run. So why do we need a special counsel to take all of this up? Well, especially when the Justice Department has already been working to put the pieces together. Questions I had, questions I know you all had. Here's the Attorney General's explanation.
Based on recent developments, including the former president's announcement that he is a candidate for president in the next election, and the sitting president's stated intention to be a candidate as well, I have concluded that it is in the public interest to appoint a special counsel. Such an appointment underscores the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters. It also allows prosecutors and agents to continue their work expeditiously and to make decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law.
Okay, we're going to talk about this. Now, Garland's choice for the special counsel is no joke. This is a serious contender. Jack Smith has most recently been the chief prosecutor investigating war crimes for the Hague, and he's the former chief of the Justice Department's Public Integrity Section. And no surprise here, after the appointment of this registered independent and special counsel, Donald Trump began criticizing him as quote-unquote radical and super left. It's a lie. It's not true, y'all. Trump is also urging Republicans to fight his appointment and vowing not to partake in the investigation. So I want to bring in some legal experts now to make it all make sense. Paul Butler is back with us. He is an MSNBC legal analyst, a former federal prosecutor, and a professor at Georgetown School of Law. And Glenn Kirshner is also here. He's an MSNBC legal analyst as well, and also a former federal prosecutor. It was very important to us that we had two former federal prosecutors here to break this down, because y'all can answer some of the questions the people in my group chats have about this very important thing. I think it is really almost impossible to name all of Donald Trump's misdeeds at this point. But it does seem to me that the Department of Justice has handled the former president with kid gloves. They've been extremely meticulous. Others, frankly, in my opinion, would have been indicted by now for doing far less. So, Paul, just tell me why. Why do we need a special counsel? I understand what Merrick Garland said. I want to know what you have to say.
So Garland was concerned about the appearance of justice, that with Biden and Trump both running for president, it might look like the Biden administration is trying to take down his political opponent, and that will be a bad look for the Justice Department. I don't think the special counsel is going to solve that problem, Simone. First of all, the Attorney General will still make the final decision about whether to prosecute, and obviously, there was a special counsel in the Russian investigation, but that didn't stop Trump from calling it a witch hunt.
I mean, I have to agree with you. I don't think that, even now, the special counsel has been appointed, and Donald Trump is still making it something that it is not. You know, Neil Katyal had something to say about this last night. He's the former acting U.S. Solicitor General, and this is what he said on MSNBC. Listen to this.
I disagree pretty strongly with the decision by Attorney General Garland to seek a special counsel. I don't think it's needed under the regulations, and I think it risks delaying this investigation needlessly.
Now, Neil Katyal, he literally drafted the special counsel regulations 20 years ago. And now he is saying that he doesn't necessarily think it's needed. So, Glenn, do you think that he's correct here?
You know, Simone, I think we could do an autopsy on Merrick Garland's decision, and I actually think there are good arguments on both sides for and against the special counsel. But we now have a decision, so I'm going to look for the silver lining behind the big dark cloud that's hanging over all things Trump and, frankly, Department of Justice. Look at who he appointed. He appointed a gentleman named Jack Smith. Now, for openers, anybody that is a war crimes prosecutor at The Hague has showed a special kind of determination to right some of our world's most egregious wrongs. But this is what I love about Jack Smith's resume. So he was a longtime federal prosecutor, and he was head of the public integrity section at the Department of Justice. Under his tenure there, you know who his office prosecuted? These are prosecutions that he authorized. Representative Rick Renzi, a Republican from Arizona, Senator John Edwards, a Democrat from North Carolina, Governor Bob McDonnell, the Republican from Virginia, Senator Bob Menendez, a Democrat from New York. We see the pattern emerging, Republicans and Democrats alike. And you know what? His unit won some of those cases and lost some of those cases. But what can we tease out of the way he operates? He is willing to go after people left, right, and center. He's willing to take challenging cases, cases that are not sure winners, and cases that are sure to be sort of politically fraught. He's going to get criticized. And you know what, Simone? Give me a prosecutor who's brave enough to do that and loses some cases. That's who I want on my team.
Yeah, Jack Smith seems overly qualified, like he's the right person for this job. I guess as I was talking to people, and I also want to get into what former Attorney General William Barr said on PBS NewsHour, so we'll weigh on in that in just a second. But I guess there are people out there folks that I was talking to, myself, they see everything that has happened, and they're wondering, is this just another hoop that the Justice Department is setting up? Like, why is this not necessarily taking so long, but given all of the evidence, it's do or die, like make or break. Either you charge them or you don't. Like, Paul, do you understand kind of the sentiment that's out there from people?
I do, but Merrick Garland did authorize that little old search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, a historic execution of a search warrant at a former president's house. My buddy Glenn is right. Jack Smith is an old school, hardcore prosecutor. There's a stark contrast with Robert Mueller, who came out of semi-retirement and didn't seem like the most energetic or aggressive guy. Quick story about Jack Smith. When he was a prosecutor in New York, a victim in a domestic violence case wanted to drop charges, and Jack Smith spent the entire weekend camped out in the hallway of her apartment until she agreed to talk to him, and ultimately he brought the case. This is not
Jack Smith seems like a serious player here, Paul. I mean, let you and Glenn tell it.
He wouldn't leave a great job in The Hague just to come to D.C. to decline.
I mean, look, I think he's the right person for this job. I think that there are folks just wondering, like, is this necessary? But I think you all have made the case for why it particularly probably maybe could be. I want to get you guys to weigh in on this. Former Attorney General William Barr, he talked about the Justice Department and the investigation into government documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago. He told PBS's Margaret Hoover, not on PBS NewsHour, but on Margaret Hoover's show, this is what he said about his former boss, Donald Trump.
If the Department of Justice can show that these were indeed very sensitive documents, which I think they probably were, and also show that the president consciously was involved in misleading the department, deceiving the government, and playing games after he had received the subpoena for the documents, those are serious charges. That's serious.
That's a serious
Well,
enough
I said that I personally think that they probably have the basis for legitimately indicting the president.
Okay, again, while all of this is unfolding, just days ago, Donald Trump did announce he's running for president again. Glenn, set the record straight. Is there anything that would give Donald Trump immunity from a conviction?
Nothing, zero, because we do have this quaint little Norman tradition that the DOJ will not do anything on the law enforcement front within 60 days of an election to make it look like maybe they're being partisan or they're interfering in the upcoming election. But there is no rule, norm, or tradition that says if you announce 2 years out, then DOJ has to give you a 2-year election holiday from investigating your crime. So no, there is nothing stopping now Jack Smith heading up the ongoing investigations from seeking indictments of Donald Trump. And let me just add, I love that Paul brought up the search warrant that Merrick Garland authorized. And yes, that was historic, and it took him a year. Do we think we've seen enough timely accountability of Trump and company under the tenure of Merrick Garland? No, Merrick Garland has proven to be too much judge and not enough prosecutor. I am not happy with the case, with the pace that he has set. It can only quicken, in my opinion, under the leadership of Jack Smith.
All right. Well, you know what? Paul Butler and Glenn Kirshner, you all were the right former prosecutors to talk about this with today. Thank you guys for kicking us off.